Good evening and welcome to Current Issues. I'm your host, Hesham Tillawi. We apologize for that 8 minutes delay, ladies and gentlemen. Something with the scheduling. We're not going to be coming to you 8 minutes late every time. This was just a one-time deal that the studio had to go through. Well, Jena, Louisiana. Have you heard of it? As a matter of fact, many people in Louisiana never heard of Jena, Louisiana until recently. I heard of Jena about 7-8 months ago. I knew there was a problem there in Jena. Everyone was calling to free the Jena 6. And it sounded pretty good. Free the Jena 6. Now, what is the Jena 6 and what is the problem in Jena? It seems that there is a tree, a white tree. I know you don't know what a white tree is. I did not know what a white tree is myself. But a white tree is where only white, that is, white people, and it is this exact tree that you are looking at, that is what is called a white tree, or at least that's what was known as a white tree at Jena High School in Jena, Louisiana. Only white students could sit under that tree and enjoy the calmness and the cool breeze and the protection that this tree will offer. Black students were not. Now, I don't know if there was a law or not, but few students decided that they wanted to sit underneath that white tree. They went to the school officials and asked permission to sit underneath the tree. The school told them that you can sit anywhere you want on campus. Well, some students did that. The next day, 3 nooses were hung from that tree. 3 nooses with the school colors were hung from the tree. And that's when the problem started. Now, some of you may not know what nooses means when it comes to the civil rights movement, what nooses means when it comes to America, because I was shocked when a librarian in Jena, Louisiana, in an interview, did not know what's the big deal with nooses hanging from the trees. That, so what? No harm was done, as if the history of the United States just vanished. As if the civil rights movement of what a noose hanging from a tree means to Americans and especially black Americans. In early, or I should say, at earlier times of the United States, people used to hang other people from the trees. So nooses hanging from the trees does have a meaning for both whites and blacks in this country. Well, a group of students, black students, beat up a white student. They knocked him unconscious, and they continued to beat him up as he laid down on the floor unconscious. They were charged. Some of them went to trial, at least one, Michael Bell. He was indicted. He was charged with a second-degree battery or something, which will take about 20 some years in prison. And that's when the problem started. That's when the black people in the United States, the African American people in the United States, thought it was unjust. And that's when the movement started, when the politicians, such as Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Congressman Waters, and Congressman Sheila Jackson Lee, and of course others in the media, and before you know it, we have a huge problem on our hands in the United States. A huge social problem, a huge demographical problem. It brought back scenes that we have not seen in the United States since the civil rights movement of Martin Luther King during the 1960s. We have seen people marching in Washington and in other cities. We had seen thousands or tens of thousands of African Americans who marched on Jena, Louisiana, September 20th. So what is bringing all these people together? Is it the injustice that took place? Was the sentence too harsh? Now remember, 5 other students who were arrested and accused of the same offense, they have not yet went to court yet. Only one of them did. And people mobilized. His sentence was overthrown because he was a juvenile at the time when he was charged with this crime and tried as an adult. So a higher court basically rejected the lower court decision to try him as an adult, and now he is out on bail waiting another trial as a juvenile in a juvenile court. But this particular problem, I am sure, black people are in court every day in this country. Injustice takes place every day in courts in this country. But we have not seen people coming together the way they did for the Jena 6. Is the civil rights movement, as Al Sharpton proclaimed on September 20th in Jena, Louisiana, that this is the beginning of the 21st century civil rights movement? Do we need a civil rights movement in this country to protect blacks? Do we need a civil rights movement to protect other minorities? Isn't it racism dead in this country, or is it still alive and well? Was this Jena, Louisiana case used and abused by all people involved? Is it being used politically to drum up votes for the Democrats? Or is this just a pure injustice that took place? And what was the injustice? The 3 white students who hung the nooses from the tree, at first they were expelled by the principal, who was overridden by the school board superintendent, and instead of expelling the students, they had suspended them for 3 days. Now, some people say that the injustice was because the white students were not charged, were not arrested for hate crimes. Only black students were arrested for beating up the white student unconsciously. Now, we welcome your phone calls, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to weigh on this. Of course, we're going to have the number there, but today or tonight we had scheduled 4 or 5 guests, as a matter of fact, who are going to tackle this issue from different views. And we also invited Reverend Dr. Ralph Bonner, and he's the only one that showed up. Unfortunately, the others did not show up, and for reasons of their own. And all of them were African Americans. This is an African American problem, and I wanted to bring these 4 who actually attended the rally in Jena to give them the stage to tell us what is going on in Jena and how they felt about what is going on in Jena. But with me now in the studio is Dr. Reverend Ralph Bonner. Dr. Bonner is the bishop of the Christian Gospel Ministry of Louisiana. He is the president and founder of Cornerstone Christian College. He is the principal of an elementary public school. He holds a bachelor's and master's degree from UL, that is the University of Louisiana. He also holds a doctorate degree from Faith Bible College and Seminary. He is also a talk show or a TV talk show host right here on this station. His show comes right after our show at 8 o'clock. And also his show will be delayed 8 minutes too. The title of his show is Book of Revelation, End of Times Prophecies. And as I said, it is broadcast right here on AOC at 8 p.m. on Thursdays, Channel 15. Welcome to the program, Reverend.
Thank you.
What do we have here in Jena, Louisiana? Is it really just because the 6 black students were arrested and the white students were not arrested? What this story is all about?
Okay, the bottom line, and I think the undercurrent of everything that is going on with Jena 6 is actually the racial overtone of it. By that I mean that when the noose was hung on the trees, okay, at that point we as African Americans know exactly what it means. We lived through that time. We understand what's going on. And so we outright, felt uneasy. We felt that we were degraded, and we felt that, we just disrespectful to us. And that undercurrent was still there until the incident occurred with the 6 blacks, beating up, a white. And of course, when they showed the film, you saw the emphasis was on how he looked, how he was bruised and everything else. And when See, we as African Americans, we see what's going on, we understand what's going on, we live the events through our lives. So the undercurrent through the whole thing was not actually the fight. The undercurrent is racism. It is well and it's alive today. And the thing is, it's time for us to actually to come together and try to resolve that problem. Because we do have a problem in the United States of America. And it's not only, put it right here, it's not only in America, it has spread almost worldwide. It's a worldwide racism. And we need to address that. Now, what I've done, talking about Jena, I've looked at the noose situation. And I read on CNN, even on today, fresh from the news, it says Coast Guard tries to deal with noose incident. What happened is that an Afro-American cadet at a great academy, okay, a noose was placed in the sea bag. Also, they had an instructor, a civil rights instructor, a white female. She was teaching race relations. And what occurred, they placed a noose in her office. So it's telling us that there is a great undercurrent. The water was quiet, but the undercurrent now came to the surface. And now since it's at the surface, we're seeing what people are really feeling right now. And it's coming and it's balling up. You know, a long time ago, many groups of people kept things in the closet. But in this age, in the last days, we're finding out everything is coming out of the closet. Nothing is hidden anymore. So the things that occur with the Jena 6 is actually, I call it microcosm, a small picture of the larger picture. And that's all it is.
Now, what is, I mean, the reason everybody's talking the injustice, okay, what is exactly the injustice that took place in Jena? Because this movement, tens of thousands of people, marched on Jena, Louisiana, and the main thing was the injustice. What was the injustice in this case?
Well, it's number one, you can see it clearly when the whites hung the noose. If you look at the punishment of what they were given. For example, I think the first punishment that was administered to them was right when they tried to expel them. But when the board came in and they reversed it to a lesser charge, I think that in itself was an injustice because
but now those are, you would think, I mean, as far as the law is concerned, those would be two separate incidences, right?
Yeah.
I mean, beating up the white guy has nothing to do with the nooses hung.
You see, the thing is, what we don't understand is this. The noose was the undercurrent of what occurred on the campus with the fight. And I believe, and that's why...
I understand that.
Okay.
But that would be the justification why the black students beat up the white student. That would be, you know, the noose is hung and that undercurrent that you're talking about, that would be the justification, the moral justification. But what about the law? Beating up a guy and the guy was unconscious and they still continued to jump up on him and kicking him.
Okay.
That is the crime.
Okay.
Now, where is the injustice in arresting those 6 black students for beating up the white guy? What is the injustice in it? Because when we say injustice in the system,
right,
in the legal system, we were talking about they arrested these 6 black students and they took them to jail. Okay. What was the injustice in that particular action?
Well, put it like this. I know me as a principal, we have to follow certain policies on the district level. And I know we have to do an investigation. We have to investigate those that were involved and those that were witnesses to find out exactly what happened. Then the school usually take action, and then law enforcement comes in and take action. Now, what I'm still wondering right now, it's not even clear in my mind, is exactly what investigation did the school do? Did it follow school board policies? And what it did, that was never made clear. Because all we see right there is that the police came in and just took control because someone was beaten. Now, let me say this. That means that around America, you have assaults going on. That means people being assaulted. It's called an assault, okay? And usually the school district handles those things, usually. Okay? Now, if it's a very, very bad, there's a lot of bad bodily injury, I mean, and I didn't see no bad bodily injury. All I saw was bruises, okay? All I saw
Well, I mean, the guy was
bruises, okay?
unconscious.
Sometimes,
he could have
let
died.
me say this. Let me say this. Sometimes there are fights on campuses where a person is hit and falls out, knock them out, okay? It's happening every day on campuses, okay? All those people placed in jail, all those people right now being prosecuted by the law.
Well, we're not talking about all these people.
Okay.
We're talking about this case.
That's what makes it the difference, I'm trying to tell you. That's what makes the difference. The difference is, how was it handled? An injustice is an injustice. The fellow was beaten.
Okay, well,
that was an assault.
Okay.
Okay. The school district probably did what they had to do. Then the police come in and do what they must do according to the law.
And the police decided that there is enough merit to this case to arrest these kids and try them, and that's what they did. They tried, well, at least one of them, Michael Bell.
Yes.
They tried him, and he was convicted and sentenced, I think. I don't know if he was. No, he wasn't sentenced yet. This whole thing came up, and he was not sentenced yet. But what I'm trying, I don't want to get stuck on this particular point.
Right.
And I'm trying to see why this case was used to mobilize blacks in America, because there are many cases throughout the country.
That's right.
Where you can tell that an injustice took place, but we did not see blacks mobilizing. But at this particular time, when we have a year left for an election, do you think this case was used and probably abused for political reasons?
I don't think so. I would never believe that part of it.
You don't think that Al Sharpton,
political.
And Jesse Jackson and Congressman Maxine Waters and Sheila Jackson Lee, don't you think they're trying to capitalize on this to get the black votes to go 100% for the Democrats?
Let me put it like this. Politicians are politicians, and they usually use any method they want to get the votes they need. But I say even without the politician, there would be some black leaders stepping up for this particular situation. They happen to be politicians, those you're talking about. So yeah, they'll get some political points. True. But the thing is, I think even without them, I think that there's some leadership would stand up and take control because of what happened. Injustice happened prior to that. A few months after that, there was a fight. Black kids were arrested. One was tried as an adult, which shouldn't have occurred to begin with. So now there's some differences going on there. We see a lot of things that are occurring.
Let me ask you this. We never had juveniles who were tried as an adult. I think it happened before.
Yes, it has.
Yeah, it has happened before where juveniles were tried as an adult. I'm seeing Al Sharpton coming down and speaking and acting as if he was the next Martin Luther King. And he even pronounced and he even proclaimed in Jena on September 20th that this is the beginning of the 21st century civil rights movement. Is Al Sharpton the leader of this movement?
I would say definitely not.
He's the only one
Definitely
I saw out there.
Because I always say this, and I always believe this in my heart, that leaders are chosen from God. They are anointed to lead. Anybody could try to lead, but if you're not called to lead, then you're going to mislead people. So I'm not going to say Al Sharpton is the leader, because I don't think he can speak for every single
So is Al Sharpton misleading?
I'm not saying he's misleading. Remember, you could be on the same direction, on the same road, but at different points on the road. He may be a starting point of the movement.
Is there a recognized leader for the African American community or citizens of the United States? Is there a recognized leader?
One leader? No.
There's no recognized leader.
You're not going to find one leader. Nope. You're not going to find one leader.
So since Martin Luther King, the community has not had a leader.
One leader that speaks for everyone. We have not had. But I always say this, God will send the one he's going to anoint to truly lead. Like Dr. King was anointed to lead it. Nobody could
Okay.
even say that. So now you're going to have many people trying to take the leadership role. You're going to see multiple people coming in. But when the time is going to come, you're going to have one voice on the one leader, and you're going to see the distinction. And it's going to happen pretty soon.
Okay. Now, the with Al Sharpton saying that this is the beginning of the civil rights movement, that tells me that we, or the African Americans, feel that they do need a civil rights movement. I thought President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, I think in 1964, and that was over and done with. But what you are talking about, and also what I'm seeing, that even though the president signed that act, but nothing much has changed, has it?
Nothing much has changed. It's the same old thing, but it's a brand new covering. That's all it is.
So Jena, Louisiana is nothing but racism all over again. It is the classical case of racism.
I would not say that Jena is a completely racist town, but I'll say this though. There are some in there that may be. I'm not going to proclaim the whole town is, because I would never ever
Well,
say
85% of the town's residents are white and 15% black. But you know what I want to know? How long that white tree has been there, and how long has it been known as white tree, and why in 2008 in America we still have places where blacks are not supposed to go and sit or enter. If that white tree was only white students sitting underneath it in 2007, because actually this took place in 2006, December 2006. So we still have white trees out there.
Yes, we still do.
In small towns.
In small towns. And I visited a small town before, and I did not see the white tree, but I did visit it for a short period of time in a basketball tournament, probably a few years ago, I think in 1995 or 96. And I did not feel the racism when I was there at all, because the welcome was good, and the whole thing seemed to be pretty nice when we went there. And the majority of our team, of course, were African Americans, and but I didn't see the disparity. So I would say this, that I would not say the whole town of Jena is a racist town, but I would say there's a great number in there that have an attitude, okay, that is, a racist attitude. And what it is, and other people that knows better, okay, are not trying to help the situation. Instead, they're turning their back on it, and therefore the very few, okay, that's fueling the fire. And I say they're fueling the fire because when you look at Alexandria, Louisiana, for an example, they stopped 2 students. They were dragging nooses behind their trucks, and they were arrested for that. Things are going on, and things are coming out that's been there for a long time, that had rooted up in that area, the Shreveport area, the Jena area. It is there. Racism is there, but now it's finally beginning to grow from its roots, and the tree is out. Okay? Now the thing is, it's more alive now than ever. The Jena 6 incident is bringing out true feelings. I mean, I read the article even on CNN. It told how all around the country now there are incidents of reduces all around the country. So now what's happening, something as small town as Jena was, in that little incident with the Jena 6, has brought in those feelings, those inner feelings people have been having for a long time about black people. And these things are being exposed now, and guess what? They can't hide it. It's being exposed. That's why, yeah, Mr. Johnson signed the bill, okay? That's only on paper, okay? But practically, it means nothing, because people can show you love. At the same time, the undercurrent could be something else. Now, I'm 58 years old. Already lived in Lafayette, Louisiana. Went to UL in the mid-60s. And I remember when Dr. King died, even at UL, they refused to put the flag down. Okay? I remember the state police surrounding us and pulling out their weapons on us. I never forget
What
this
about
time.
now? Is
racism
racism still going?
That's what I'm bringing you to. Okay, I'm bringing you to. So I've been through it, and even today it is alive. But the way it is alive is that you're not being confronted face to face and saying I'm a racist. It's through the strategies and technique that is being used to keep you down, to keep you from progressing, different positions, like in jobs, for an example. You want a certain position, racism comes and play a part. You'll never always hire, a black man never hired by qualification. You can have doctor's degree, you never
we
get
might
position.
have a black president.
You think so?
No,
All right.
I don't.
Okay, I don't think so either. No way. Okay, you forget that.
As a matter of fact,
you forget that.
as a matter of fact, let me, let's jump on that for a second. My opinion, if Hillary Clinton, which it looks like that she's going to be on the ticket, if they put, which I would love to see Barack Obama on the ticket too, but if they put Barack on that ticket, that is a guarantee that the Democrats will not get the votes. Now, if all African Americans who live in the United States, if they all vote for Hillary, and they bring up this black issue, and you know this undercurrent is coming up on top.
Yes, it is.
And also they might bring up the past for Barack Obama, bring up his schoolings when he went to school, to a Muslim school, and his stepfather was a Muslim. So they keeping that hidden now until the time for election, so they can't. So we see that they're going to play the race card.
Yes, they will. They definitely will.
And in my opinion, the Jena 6 immobilized blacks. I bet you had people who came to Jena from around the country who never paid attention to politics and who never voted before, but the next year they will be at the ballot boxes. Now, what if this is the 21st century movement of civil rights, then we are looking at struggle continuing for the years to come within the black community, trying to identify itself, because one thing that I always said, that the black community in the United States they were robbed of their history, of their heritage.
That's right.
And I always maintained that.
That's right.
Now, the United States is made up of different people with different cultures and different heritage, and people can identify their heritage and their culture.
That's so true.
But when it comes to black people, that was deprived of them. And are we going to see a movement in regeneration, black identity in the United States?
Yeah, I think it's coming up. It's coming up in a short period of time, as a matter of fact, because even like I say, I'm 58 years old, and I don't feel my what I call my roots, because all I speak is English. I can't speak no other language, a little French and stuff. But my original language is gone. I was forbidden to speak it. It is gone. So the culture is not there. The African background culture is not there. And when I look at every other nation in this country, they all can speak their home language. They can go back to their country anytime they want and feel at home. I can't go to no country in Africa and feel at home, because they can see that I'm an oddball. I don't fit in. Okay, so we are the only group of people that have actually no good history. We don't have no connection. So what's going to happen now, I think, if we stick to it, put it like this, if we stick to it and begin to unite and begin to identify, I think there's going to be what would you call it that again, a resurgence of us searching for our cultural background, searching for our history. That is needed. Now, I understand that after the movement was kind of dead, that everybody came back and were kind of contented a little bit and sitting back. You have a few that stayed vocal, but not enough. And remember, if you're not loud in numbers, you're not going to be heard. You're not going to be heard by anyone. You're not going to be heard by politicians or anything. But when you come together in great numbers, then you're heard and you're respected. And I think this movement is going to cause a lot of people to look at themselves and look at what's going on, and a lot of African Americans that felt, helpless, okay, will now get a boldness and want to begin to confront the issues, because now we try to confront issues on a small scale, on a job situation. We lose all the time. My wife is the same way. She works all the time. She's smart. She has national certification in the area, but everywhere she goes, she got to find it's a struggle.
So you think
So it's a struggle.
So you think after the signing of the Civil Rights Act by Johnson, the black movement kind of thought, "Hey, great, we won. Now we are on top of the mountain. So now we're going to sit down and just watch," and did not continue with progress to become like, for instance, we will be confronted in well, not really confronted, but something that we have to think about, that in the next 10 years, 15 years, America is going to look a little bit different than it looked 40 years ago.
Yes, definitely.
We're going to have a big chunk of Latinos, for instance,
Yes.
that they are going to be identified. There's an identity. Now, are black leaders, are they working on making sure that the black identity is there? That, hey, America is not what it used to be politically? Because, one thing I can tell you is, and to me, and this is just a personal opinion, that somehow what little benefit that sometimes we think that the federal government and the politicians are giving to the people, sometimes actually I look at it as a program to keep people where they are. I'm talking about these social programs.
Yeah.
To me, people are, like, for instance, let's just to talk about this. To me, these social programs that they, and it's mainly black politicians who push for these social programs. For instance, like food stamps, like welfare, like things like that. Don't you think that these programs have hurt? Now, I know this is not just a black program. This is a program for all citizens. But don't you think that these programs have hurt mainly the African American community in the United States more than it helped them?
I think a lot of the programs that were produced to help did more harm because of the dependency on those programs. Okay, and once even though when you go to the Word of God, it says that the one that you are indebted to, you are serving to. If you're indebted to the government is doing everything for you, then you're indebted to the government and you will not question the government. Even though that government may be racist, you're not going to question it because that's where you're getting your source from. So I think those programs have hurt us, have hurt our identity, have hurt our push. We don't push as hard because some of us are more comfortable with the little. It's a great book.
Would you say this is slavery of the mind?
Definitely. Economic slavery. That's what it is. Definitely.
Economic slavery.
Because the black race are consumers. That's all we are. We spend billions and billions and billions of dollars a year, but we don't produce nothing. We like to buy, okay, because we're getting it a lot of time free, but we don't like to produce, okay? So we're consumers, not producers. That has to change. The whole mindset has to change. Where we know who we are, we have an identity.
But the leaders in the black community are not saying that. The leaders will fight to, with their teeth to keep these programs that has proven for years and years and years to, some people even went as far as calling it a conspiracy from the government to keep blacks oppressed, to keep blacks where they are. But you see, black leaderships are fighting with their teeth to keep these programs and to keep basically blacks where they are.
No.
So where's the black leadership that talks like you?
Hey, that's a voice in the wilderness. And I think you know who that voice is. I'm not going to mention it right now, but that's a voice in the wilderness. If we could just hear that voice, I think we'll have a different mindset. And the voice that I hear in the wilderness is not from any black politician. It's not from Ellis Sharpton. It's not from Reverend Jesse Jackson. It is another voice that is in the wilderness that we need to listen to. That gives us a wholesome view of where we are and where we should be going as a group of people and as a nation. There's a voice out there.
Okay. What do you think the African Americans community in the United States should go from here? How can they capitalize on what happened in Jena, where tens of thousands of people showed up for a cause? Even though that cause, and we said, hundreds of these cases go on and people don't pay attention to it, but this particular cause was able, for right reasons, wrong reasons, to bring the African American unity, to show that there is a power out there. How can they harness that power?
Well, they can harness that power by continually meeting and continually focusing on the problems. Now, see, every African American that went there to Jena, I want you to know, I've had some type of racism against them. Don't you? I mean, you have to believe this. When Jena occurred, they went there because of a life experience. I've had life experiences through my lifetime. Okay, so if the movement is to start, like L. Sharpton says, the greatest thing ever, is because it is happening to each individual, and we got to come together because now we have a common ground, and the common ground is racism is yet alive, and that should be a uniting point because we all went through it. I don't think you could find one black on this earth that could say that something racial did not happen to them.
So every black who went to Jena, the tens of thousands, saw himself.
Saw himself.
This has nothing to do with beating up a white kid and going to jail
for it. It has
for it.
everything to do with that undercurrent of racism. Everything to do with that.
How can the black community positively harness this so it will strengthen the country, not divide it? Because the weave of the country, we have different religions, different heritage, different cultures, different races. So if we, this revolution that took place on September 20th, how can it be positively, not negatively? Because now we got everybody feeling like they were discriminated against. This is me in that jail cell. How can we positively get what we want, harness this power, help this power move the black or the African American cause in the United States forward, and at the same time not eat up at the insides of the country and destroy it, weaken it? Because remember, we have many African Americans in Iraq fighting next to white Americans.
Right.
We don't want them turning guns on each other.
True.
As we don't want people turning against each other here. But how can you bring this hatred? Because hanging nooses from a tree, that is a hate crime. That is a hate crime that should be punishable by law. Just like if you go out there to a synagogue and you spray hate messages, that is a hate crime. This is a hate crime, even though this librarian in Jena could not figure out what's up with the nooses. Why are you getting upset? Apparently, I don't know where she comes from, but I think the nooses, it says a lot when it comes to relations between blacks and whites and here. And we had pictures that we showed people hanging from the trees. So how can you harness that bad feeling that is exploding now within the African American community into a positive thing that would help the country heal? Not all the politicians, because the politicians, they go on just to cover it.
Okay.
How can it be healed and healed right?
But let me say this to give a better overview, because I don't have no specific answer. Let me say this, okay? If everything is based on truth, it has to be based on truth. Then what's going to happen is that the events that are going to occur is going to cause the unity. What I'm talking about, as I look at CNN and I see what's going on throughout the country, how everything is being exposed now, it's going to bring a consciousness to the African American. They're going to see it alive. They already felt it. They already have lived it. And what's going to happen is going to cause a unity, and we're going to seek, what we're going to seek as a group of people is an ideology, okay, that will erase racism, which is hard to do because it's inborn, very hard to do, or at least cause others to tolerate, I put tolerance in there, tolerate black people. The black people as a whole are the most, I mean, when I say the most, I mean they're the race where discrimination occurs daily. We feel it, we live it. The only thing that's going to keep us together is the reaction we getting, and it's a very bad reaction of activities throughout the country, is going to force us to come together as one. It's like with Dr. King. The events of the time caused the unity. I mean, sitting on the bus.
Okay, unity.
I mean, sitting on the bus, you know, to some people it's a small incident. A small incident, but what's the undercurrent of sitting on the bus? It was racism.
Now, unity of the black people you're talking about?
Unity of the black people,
Well, no, I'm
bringing
talking-
in, bringing others.
Now, black people
Right.
are coming together,
Yes.
but they're coming together in this way.
Mm-hmm.
How will this help the country heal? Are we going to be able to change the minds? Because I did not see too many white people in Jena
Right.
during the demonstrations. Yeah, there were few of them, very, very few. But I did not see too many that went to say, we are Americans and we believe in this injustice that happened in Jena. I did not see too many white Americans out there. I did not see other races out there. I was supposed to go with my friends to cover the event, the same friends who did not show up tonight.
Okay.
But I was going to go and film the events and cover the events, but I saw what took place there, and I did not see too many white people. So even if we get the black people together on this cause, we still have a problem. That undercurrent, that racism, it's even going to go more and more. It's going to be worse. How do we get out of this?
The reasoning I see, and it's very, very simple, okay? Before anything could be solved, it has to be brought to the conscience. Once it's brought to the conscience and reasoning comes in and wisdom comes in, then you will see other races being a part of this, talking about justice, removing racism. It's not going to happen overnight. But, even to get healed from alcohol or drugs or anything else, I think the first step you got to do is to admit to yourself that you're an addict, or admit to yourself you're an alcoholic. Now, when people start admitting to themselves, yes, I am racist, stop covering it up and call it something else, or put it on somebody else. It was my forefathers in slavery, it wasn't me, so I have nothing to do with it. No, they have to admit, that it did occur, and it's not a lie, it's history. When people start admitting where they're coming from, I think you'll start pulling people together as one, like Dr. King did, because people begin to admit, hey, it's all of us. If it affects one race, it affects all races. Once we come to that consciousness, I think you're going to see that unity. You're going to see us growing as a people of America, as a people, not as one group against another group. But it has to be a consciousness. It has to be in the mind that has to change first. That's what I see. If we get the consciousness together, I think we're going to see a change.
How are you going to change the minds when you have a media out there, when you have Hollywood out there with an agenda to
Correct.
feed racism, to portray criminals as blacks and good soldiers or good cops as white, when they portray criminals as Muslims and Arabs, and the good guys are white and whatever. So there is an agenda out there to keep the people divided, and that's the agenda that people see more than what you talking at your church about, and more than they changing the minds a lot faster than we can change the minds on programs like this, talking about issues like this, because the media out there has an agenda, and it's very powerful, and it's programming people's minds to stay separate and stay disunited. Can you do with the media?
Well, where we are today is because of the media. I mean, we could talk about the racist part, But when you talk about the bigger picture of racism, you can bring it all the way to overseas. Why are we in certain areas today? Okay? Because of the media. Controls everything. The key point is for us to not only just expose the media, the key point is that we bring enough of our people together. When I say people, I mean throughout the United States together, and begin to unite against the media, which is a powerful thing to do. Okay, very powerful, but it can be done. There's nothing on this earth that cannot be done if a man have the will to do it. Now, you're right, the media controls everything, controls our thoughts, our ways, but we have to have, like I say, a mindset of justice and let nothing else distort it. And that's going to be the key, okay? Because the media got us way out in Iraq right now. The media got us all over, probably going to go into Iran, all other places. It's the media that's pushing all of those issues and making us believe, hey, you know, this is great. Let's do all those kind of things. And it's wrong. We have to have a consciousness of justice. That's so important. That's all I see for our solution. It's a conscious thing. It's a confronting thing, bringing it up front and not trying to put it behind your back and say, we can't do nothing about it, so let's just forget it. It is too powerful, the media, too powerful, let's forget it. We can't wait and we can't forget. Time is now that we stand strong. If we defeat it, we defeat it, but guess what? We defeated trying. That's the key.
Now, let me ask you one last question. As far as the Jena 6, if the 3 white students who hung the nooses were arrested and charged with a hate crime, would you still see injustice in the case of the Jena 6 that took place?
I believe, even in my mind, that the fight was not an isolated incident. If there was not the nooses in the tree, I don't think that you'd even have the fight.
But that's fine. But what I'm saying is, if they were charged with that hate crime, not just slap on the hand and say, you know, go play Nintendo at your house for 3 days and then come back. If they were actually charged and arrested, would the black community be satisfied if that took place?
No.
Why not?
They would not. Because of the symbolism of the noose in the tree.
But I mean, they came to Jena because the blacks were arrested and the whites were not arrested, even though it was 2 separate crimes.
Okay.
And, you know, hanging a noose from the tree.
But that was not the only reason.
Now, wouldn't that go under freedom of expression? Hanging a noose from the tree? I know it hurts the black community, but wouldn't that be freedom of expressions and freedom of speech?
Freedom of expression has its limit. It has its limit. You know what I'm talking about. Certain things you cannot say or you'll be arrested. Certain things you cannot say at all. One of the things you cannot say, for an example, is to deny what the Holocaust, for an example. Okay? That's what would be a freedom of expression. You can say, I deny it, or I'm for it, or it does not exist. That's what would be freedom. Listen to what I'm saying.
We only have a couple of minutes left.
Okay,
so portraying Jesus as a pedophile and his mother as a harlot, that is not, that would not be a hate crime? That somebody should be punished for? But they're saying, hey, this is freedom of expression?
Freedom of expression in that, you know, the difference between what you're talking about talking about Jesus. You're going to have some that are going to be anti-Christ and some that's going to be for Christ.
Okay.
So that's nothing.
But with this thing, people are going to look at the nooses and the blacks are going to be hurt with it, but the whites are going to think, you know, some of them might say, oh, wow, that's what we used to do.
Right. But it was not right.
Okay.
It was injustice.
So if they were arrested, then my same question is, if those 3 were arrested, then you would be okay with arresting the 6 and charging them for beating up the white kid?
It would be, look, no, I'm saying this. It'd be okay if they was charged because they paid the penalty. But the undercurrent will still be there. The feelings will still be there. And it's going to surface whether they had the fight or not. I'm trying to tell you, whether they had the fight with the Jena 6 or not, it will surface anyhow. And I believe it.
I believe it too.
I believe it.
Reverend, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It has been a real pleasure. having you with us. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, we only have like a minute left or so in the program. We wanted to bring this because, as the Reverend said, this had nothing to do with 6 kids beating a white student, with 6 black kids beating a white student. Now, we're not saying they should not have been arrested and charged. That is for the legal system to deal with it. And but what we are saying is this whole movement was not. This was an undercurrent, and this was boiling underneath, and what you saw is just what bubbled up on the surface. But it's still bubbling down there, and it's still bubbling extremely hot. And we don't know where this is going to go, but I really believe that there is always an opportunity. There is always a positive opportunity in any actions, and what took place on September 20th in Jena, where tens of thousands of African Americans have came to the on that town, I think we should, and the black community, the African American community, should harness this and should harvest what this thing is all about, for unity and to change this world for the better. Yes. We'll see you next Thursday. Good night.
Yeah.